Hello, Nayna. Thank you so much for joining me in the CSR communication series that I run. This is on my blog, and I interview thought leaders from multiple organizations, understanding their perspectives on CSR and how communications is done. So before we get started, it'll be great if you could quickly introduce yourself for our viewers.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Anishu. Hi, I'm Nayna Banerjee. I look after corporate communication, marketing, and CSR for Dun Bradstreet in India. Since this is a CSR discussion, CSR is very close to my heart, and it's just not like quote unquote a regulatory requirement, but I think
Right.
it's just much more an emotional touch point. And I have been doing CSR work in my communication role for a long time, but at a personal capacity, I've done few research studies. I've done some projects with some of the non-profit. So
Mhm.
that's where what am I in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Great. So let's begin with the first question. So, how is CSR or sustainability defined by your organization?
We look at CSR in a little different way because the organization I work with, Dun Bradstreet, where CSR is in something as called do good. So
Mm.
in whatever you do, it's imbibed in our values. So
Right.
whatever you do, you make a difference in somebody's life. It's not
Mm.
about giving a charity money, but every act of yours should be something that you're doing good to someone. So
Mm.
that's where the belief starts. And
Mhm.
obviously in India, you have a regulatory requirement, so you need to do a lot of CSR. But
Right.
the point is, we don't really believe it, writing a check and giving it for some charity. We try to be involved with, who we work with, and try to make, if it's not like, you're not a big foundation that you're spending a lot of money. But whatever
Correct.
you do, if it's like, 5 people's life, but how we measure our success is, have we done anything to improve the condition of life of those 5 people? So
Mm.
that's the way, we see CSR, and something which is a sustainable effort where our
Right.
employees is also involved. And it's not like CSR is happening at the boardroom, but
Mm.
for our organization, CSR happens across. So
Great.
every employees in the organizations are aware of what is happening in the company. CSR has a
Mm.
place in town hall where we
Mm.
kind of inform people what is happening. So
Right.
it's something that you take your people along when you're doing something for the society.
Nice. Nice. That's a great point. I like the fact that you're saying that it's about, impacting people and not just, giving away money. And so that's a great way. And also the fact that you're involving people. So I'm more curious about how does CSR get communicated? So what are some of the methods, the channels, the resources you all use? Because, communicating CSR is very crucial to getting CSR in people's minds.
Correct. So you know what I mean. The moment we did started CSR, one of the diktat or one of the things that we realized is the first thing is we will take people along, and our
Hmm.
CSR program won't be successful if we don't have the support of our people. And you
Right.
know that people now not just work for money and the status, people work for a purpose, and especially the younger generation, they want to be associated with companies where there is a purpose and they're giving a
Right.
purpose to their life. So people are very,
Hmm.
very conscious about, where am I working? Is this company socially
Hmm.
responsible? And there comes the communication piece. So you have to ensure that you
Right.
have a regular communication going. So what we
Hmm.
use is, in the quarterly town hall, we ensure that we have a piece on CSR, and we kind of tell people that, what are we are doing, if there's any
Hmm.
volunteering opportunities, and what is the
Hmm.
impact that we have done. So for
Right.
instance, we do a scholarship program with the Tata Institute of Social Science, where
Nice.
we give scholarship to people for higher education. But
Okay.
we do try and see if we can have a talking point to that person, and that person comes, a live or a
Right.
recording or a message that what have we done for them.
Right.
Similarly, we use town hall, we use emailers, we also do CSR sustainability newsletters,
Hmm.
and we are constantly communicating because we constantly try and look at volunteering opportunities for our employees. And
Hmm.
the moment the volunteering opportunities come, people's interest is more. And we
Correct.
also try and make opportunities where, if I'm a volunteer, so I want them to talk rather than, it's a preaching thing that, this is what we have
Hmm.
done. It's
Hmm.
more, it comes from people. It could be the
Right.
non-profit you're working, or the people you're impacting, or the people who are volunteering. We
Hmm.
try to showcase their voice,
Got it.
which make it more real for people, to understand what is happening.
Great. I like the fact that you're involving people in the entire journey in the process. So if I have to ask you, is there a dedicated team? And if there is, what are the kind of skills that team particular has, or what do you think the organization really values in terms of skills for CSR professionals?
In our organization, we have in the communication marketing team, we have somebody along with me who works on CSR. And I think the skills, I think the first thing is empathy. That has to be there, somebody who
Right.
understands and who has a passion, because, you know, it's just not a job or just a function that
Yeah.
you do. I mean, it's true for any profession. But in
Right.
this profession, you really have to understand, that what you are trying to achieve.
Right.
But with that, you need to have a little bit of an analytical skills also. So,
Mm.
if you're spending some money, what
Yeah.
is the impacting and what is the effect? And because you have to also do a regulatory reporting, right? So you
Correct.
need to have a little bit of a balance of, an analytical mind uh, with a huge amount of empathy, I think.
Mm.
Somebody who's sensitive, understands, and who has the capability of taking people along. So it has to be a
Mm.
people's person.
Right.
I mean, you could be an introvert or an extrovert, but when it comes
Right.
there, you have to be that extrovert who is ready to communicate, ready to listen. So those
Mm.
are some of the qualities I think is important for somebody, and who understand this, who have some kind of knowledge about sociology, what is
Right.
the barriers. I mean, you, and especially if you're a communication professional and also doing CSR, you can't just be brash and saying, "Oh, I have done this." So
Yeah.
you can be very proud of if you made an impact on somebody, but you have to be very subtle in,
Correct.
you have to have that humble, you need to be humble also. So I think these are few of the
Absolutely.
qualities if I can put together.
Fantastic. So you're talking about humility, talking about empathy. So what's interesting is that you spoke about all the soft skills and not really about the hard technical skills required for this role, which I think is a given anyway if you're part of this domain. So if I were to ask you, I mean, I'm not interested in the budgets per se, but how do what are the kind of activities or what are the priorities that you all focus on when it comes to CSR communications per se?
So, uh, firstly, how we define CSR is something that we take a project where our employees are involved, or something
Mm.
that we can monitor. So
Right.
though we understand that India has huge amount of need in the country, and you
Mm.
may have a lot of needs in places which are far flung and rural, but it doesn't say that but urban poor is also a big challenge, right? So we
Yeah.
try and we spread our wings in a way that we touch a little bit of everything, and whatever small we are doing, as I told you before, that we are looking
Mm.
for impact. So
Right.
how we communicate and how we decide on CSR programs is to take up something which is close to our heart. So when we
Mm.
started our journey, the first thing we did is we asked our employees that what are the things that you guys want, and
Mm.
education became a big thing for us, and a little bit
Right.
of help. So in
Right.
education, what we do is we try to touch people from kindergarten to higher
Mm.
education, and
Right.
we are running different programs around that. And
Got it.
since education came out as an employee interest, so
Okay.
it's also something that employees participate. So for instance,
Mm.
right now in pandemic, everybody is working from home, so your
Right.
volunteering opportunities are less, right?
Correct.
But
Yeah.
in our organization, we ensure that we have some opportunities. So our employees are actually taking English classes for people in one of the non-profit that we work with. Then
Okay.
our employees are also doing, because we support a program which is for visually impaired and special children. So we are
Mm.
also doing some storytelling recording for them, so
Mm.
that somebody's, because they also can't come to school, so you do
Right.
something around that. So
Right.
and this communication is something that we use social channels, we use
Mm.
as I said, always, because everybody's in remote now, so you
Yeah.
town halls, you use social channels, you use your
Got it.
weekly newsletter,
Right.
and people look forward to it. And what we also do is, if somebody is volunteering and doing a good job from the organization, we
Mm.
ensure that we celebrate that person's, we
Right.
celebrate that person and their work.
Right.
And beyond, there are a lot of people in the organization who are very sensitive to a CSR, and they do a lot of social activity beyond the company means. And we
Mm.
ensured, we have given them a confidence with our communication that we are also sensitive and we are interested to know what they're doing. So they
Right.
also come back and tell us that I have, I have, this school, or I go to
Mm.
this place, and this is where I spend my weekend. So we
Mm.
ensure that we bring together those things and communicate to the wider audience within the organization.
Great. I like the way that you all recognize and celebrate how people are doing over and above their work, and from especially from CSR. What are some of the trends that you observe around CSR and related to communication? Is there things which you have noticed recently, which you have observed?
I'm sure when I speak about that, I think the first thing which comes in my mind is, the generation now that is coming to work for. They're
Mm,
very sensitive,
right,
and they believe in a purpose of life. They believe in
right.
their, ethos, and this is something I want to do in life.
Mm,
And the moment they know that, in an organization which, believes and, really encourage that, so you
mm,
immediately, get that person with you.
mm,
And that's a big takeaway, I think. And this is a big trend for any
mm,
corporate communication in a very corporate social responsibility matter.
mm,
And
mm,
the moment you understand that and you make your communication, so it's starting from your induction program
mm,
to, in your every communication from leadership. If you see that, your leadership is driving a purpose in life,
mm.
so you get the employee involvement to a great extent. So
Got
I
it.
see that coming in. CSR is no longer that, one tech, one compliant thing that we need to do and it's in one corner. This is
Right.
something which is coming in. Obviously, it has to be discussed in boardrooms, but it
Mm,
also gets discussed, in every communication, that what someone
mm,
is doing, and
mm,
that is binding people together. So I see that, social
mm,
responsibility is a very great tool for employee engagement and binding,
mm.
you know, giving a team that purpose and together, and you're working together.
Fantastic. That's a great way of representing it. So, if you could, reflect on a campaign, or if you could describe a campaign that you recently worked on, either in your current company or previous organization, where, there was some social impact which you all made, and how did you go about it? What was the kind of challenges? How did you overcome it? What was the outcome from the overall experience?
Sure. When we talk about this, the first thing comes in my mind is the Oxfam 100
Mm,
kilometer trail work. We have been doing this for the last 2 years, and this year we did it in a virtual mode. So
fantastic.
once we started talking about Oxfam 100 kilometer challenge, it's a mind block, 48
So I'm
hours.
curious, how did you do it in a virtual mode? I'm curious about that.
Uh, sure. This year it was virtual. This year, what they have done is they have asked participants to complete 100 kilometers or 50 kilometers within 10 days. And you
Okay.
can complete that, that walk anywhere, and you can just
Oh,
put it in an app and send it, because obviously
uh,
people can't get together.
right.
So Oxfam, it was new to the organization. People were not
Mm,
aware of, what is Oxfam 100 kilometers challenge was. And this
right.
is you're doing for a cause, right? You're doing it
Correct.
for the cause of equality and for education for girl
Mm,
child, and to
mm,
motivate people to take part, 100
mm,
kilometers. The moment you hear like 100 kilometers in 48 hours, it's a huge, and it's in tough
yeah.
terrains.
Yeah.
But when we spoke about the purpose, the leadership got involved. Our
Mm,
then CEO, as well as our present CEO, coming out from UK to take part, and we made it like a huge thing that you are making a difference. It's not only you're just making a difference; it's also a fitness challenge. So
right.
we made, we kind of did a marriage of those two together,
Mm-hmm.
and we did like a 3 month back calculation.
Mm-hmm.
So every weekend, when the teams were formed, the whole team together, or the teams of fours, they used to practice this, and we
Mm,
used to ensure that their practice run is communicated to the entire organization,
right.
their plus, their minuses. Then we had enough session with Oxfam, as well as people who have experienced the walk, to tell
Mm,
them that what are the fitness challenge we should do, what are the gears you should do, and
right.
just that motivation that you're doing something for the society. And there was
Mm,
also this, in this challenge, there is also that you have to raise funds. So as
right.
an organization, we helped them with partly the fund, and part
Mm,
of it we left it for the worker to, just to
mm,
motivate them that you understand you're doing for the social cause. Part of it
right.
the worker has to be, they have to raise.
Got it.
And we are an international organization, a multinational. So
Mm,
people reached out to within friends,
mm,
families within the organization. So a lot of people from our different parts of the organization
right.
pitched in, friends, family. So it became like, and then on that day people were so motivated, because there was so much of communication went, and so much of
Mm,
team building happened in the whole thing,
right.
that when they came, and we were the first company, I think that's what Oxfam said, where
Mm-hmm.
all the four teams that participated in 2017, sorry, they all
Mm-hmm.
completed their 100 kilometers.
Wow, that's great.
And when they came, they were like the heroes of the company. And
Right.
the next year when we wanted to do, then the organization and the people were asking that you can't have four teams, you have to have more.
Right.
And since this was outskirts of Bombay, there where we did, and not the Bangalore one, there are
Mm.
people from our other offices also who came in and participated. There were people from
Okay.
Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi.
Right.
So
Right.
it was like, it's like a celebration, team bonding. You're doing it for a cause. So you match
Right.
your fitness level. So it was a
Right.
good campaign that I should say feels very satisfied.
Fantastic. That's great. I mean, that's a very enriching experience because I know we had done it also at my previous organization. So, what is your advice for CSR practitioners in terms of how they can communicate more effectively?
I would say, as I said before, also take the people, take
Mm.
their experience, let your work talk for itself, rather
Mm.
than saying that we have given, say, X number of scholarship to people.
Yeah.
You can probably talk that, what is the difference you have made to that person's life with that scholarship,
Right.
or also bring those people. So, for instance, we support a bus, with an NGO, with a non-profit called the Door Society of Doorstep School. So this
Okay.
bus has been converted into a classroom, and
Oh,
it goes to rural slum area, not rural slum, cities, urban slum areas where people have no access to any classroom, and people are literally on the street. But
right.
this non-profit is extremely engaged, and there's teaching. So we
Mm.
make sure that our people also, I mean, not obviously now in the pandemic, but people used to go and touch base with these children. Also,
Mm.
you get your CSR inside the office. So who are you supporting, or whatever you're doing, get
Mm.
them. So we used to have those touch points in celebration. So a Christmas celebration, probably it's not a party for the employees, but a party with these kids,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
employees
Yeah.
become secret Santa for them. So
Mm.
you just involve. I think you involve your people. I mean, if you
Mm.
really want to make a successful corporate social program, I think
Mm.
employee engagement would be the and you have to start from there, and it has to be have a leadership involvement. You need to have your leader believing in it, speaking about it, and
Got it.
seen in all these activities. So you have to lead it from front, and it's like
Mm.
work the talk. So the
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
leadership team should come there, influence everyone, and
Right.
then you celebrate the success with everyone. So I think that would be important. You have to take both the leadership as well as people together to
People
make
alone.
it work.
Fantastic. And a related question to that, there are a lot of people who are aspiring to join this domain, and because of this 2%, CSR Act and all that, there's a lot more interest in this function. So, what's your advice for aspiring professionals who want to kind of make a mark here?
See, the people who are aspiring to come to CSR, I think they're already technically skilled, right? They have their sociology degree, or their
Right.
social understanding, which is
Mm.
very, very important. But
Right.
I think if you're coming in this profession, you should be ready to make your hand dirty.
Mm.
It is not a desk job where you
Mm.
would not go and see what's happening. You
Mm.
need to be very, very, very sure that and you also have to have, you know as I said, empathy, humble, etc., is something that you need, but you also need to have a little bit strong heart, I would say, because sometimes
Mm.
the situation where you go, where you're supporting,
Yeah.
is not very I mean, it's not very it's really, really something that can move you,
Yeah.
and it kind might just disturb you to an extent that, oh
Yes.
my god, this is what the reality is. Because the
Yeah.
reality from where we live and we stay,
Yeah.
and from that reality, there's a huge gap. So
Absolutely.
if you should be ready to walk that path and to be
Right.
with them. So you should have. So I think it's a lot of mindset. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
good profession, and it's a great opportunities nowadays. But
Mm.
as a profession, it's a different kind of mindset is required. And I would
Absolutely.
say that you should develop that mindset, and you should be ready to do field job and make
Right.
your hand dirty.
Fantastic.
Otherwise, from your office chair, you can't do CSR.
Correct. That's a great point. And as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, how can organizations get better with CSR communication? What should leaders do differently? What should, teams do differently?
In terms of leaders, I think what worked for us, I could say that, as I said, it's walk the talk. So leaders
Mm.
have to be in the forefront and talking about it a lot.
Right.
And if they want really to make an impact. So they need to talk in, just not, in a piece of thing that, you're talking in town hall, and it should
Mm,
not look that it's a forced communication. It should be
mm,
something that you're following.
yeah,
Leaders
yeah,
should volunteer for programs along with probably, anybody in the organization. So in
right.
our organization, from the chairman to the person, the junior most or the newest person entrance,
Mm,
everybody is there together, and that time there's no hierarchy, right? All of us
right,
belong to this company and we are volunteering. So
right,
I think that kind of, involvement from a leadership team is absolutely must.
right,
Otherwise, your program will never, and your communication will never success. So if there's
right.
any, so if you're putting something, a success in social media, I would
Mm,
like to see a leader commenting there first, and which
yeah,
is a
great
believable
point.
comment, not like, a
Yeah,
post tweet somewhere.
yeah,
So
yeah.
people want to see a leader who believes in it, and also
Mm,
take your people along. I mean,
got it.
and if you have to take your people all along, celebrate the people who are doing
Mm,
something.
right.
Obviously, sometimes they don't want to talk about it, but do
Yeah.
it in that subtle way. Don't make it like in a big,
Mm,
big something that makes people uncomfortable.
yeah,
But
yeah.
do talk to people and bring examples. So
Right.
you have to give examples because we are all very busy with our city life.
Yeah, yeah.
Time is a constraint. But in that, if you take time, it
Correct.
works. Like the storytelling session that we are doing
Yeah.
for the children,
Mm,
we have family members coming and doing it along with our employees.
nice,
We have
nice.
alumni coming and doing that for our employees. So it's
Great.
overall, it's like, it's like an ecosystem you develop to make it work.
Fantastic. Great. This has been fantastic. This is a great insight, Naina. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I'm sure it will be very valuable. So thank you
Thank
again
you.
for doing this.
Thank you so much for, inviting me.